Hello everyone and welcome to the Futcast hosted by What If League. Today's episode is going to be a solo one. We're not going to have Harry today. Hopefully he'll return in the future. And for this episode, we're going to review the FA Cup Round 4 that just passed this weekend. Also, we're going to focus on Alexis Sanchez's debut for Manchester United, as well as expectations for the next round of Premier League fixtures that are upcoming in the middle of this week, tonight and tomorrow on Wednesday. And we're going to close the discussion with some transfer talk about the latest transfers and rumors surrounding Premier League teams. So stay tuned, we'll begin shortly. All right, moving to topic number one, which is the FA Cup Round 4 and the fixtures that were played during this weekend. I am only going to focus the games where the Premier League teams have been involved, since my knowledge of Championship football and the lower leagues is really not that great, so I don't really want to embarrass myself in front of you guys. So let's get started. I'll start with the Yellville Town to hosting Manchester United game, which was one of the first games of the round that was played. In that game, the hosts really tried. They tried to compete with the Red Devils, but unfortunately, their strength really was not sufficient, and it was painfully obvious that they would come out losers in the end. It was also a very important event because Alexis Sanchez made his debut wearing the Red Devils shirt. So that was very interesting and important for the Manchester United fans to follow, I would imagine. In the first half, the Elvio Town team tried to press high in Manchester United's half, and that was really bringing results. The Red Devils were not able to get the ball forward as fast and as fluid as they wanted. The attacking play was really not fluid. Marcus Rashford was playing on a different level with everybody else. He was not really in tune. At least that's my opinion. He tried a lot. He tried to really penetrate the defense, but it did not really work out for him. On several occasions, he managed to lose his direct opponent, but he kicked the ball either too strong or too wide to really make any significant impact. But credit to the Yeovil goalie, who did manage to produce several class saves to deny him. On the other hand, we had Alexis Sanchez, who was really active. He was buzzing around. He was trying to get in the middle. He was trying to really make things happen and try to force an error from the opponent. Although they were really well organized defensively, and the high press was stopping the fullbacks of Manchester United to get into attack to support the attacking players. I would say that probably Juan Mata linked up with Sanchez, the best of all the attacking players that Jose Mourinho put forward in that game. McTominay was often coming to the left wing to cover for Sanchez's dropping into the middle. If you have followed Alexis Sanchez play in Udinese, afterwards in Barcelona, also for the Chile national team, and later on in the Premier League for Arsenal, you probably have seen that he really tends to drift into the middle and then get into positions where he can shoot with his right foot, which is his preferred foot. And in this game, he really tried to make some key passes, to make some really decisive balls for Mata on the right side, and also for Rashford. But I think he mistimed or misjudged the strength of the final pass, of the final touch, and that really let him down in this occasion. Although afterwards it was very noticeable that whenever he got the ball, the whole team was kind of energized and they were trying to help him make the best debut possible, I would say. Which which is fine, and I hope that it really turns out for the best for him. As you probably know, I'm a supporter of Manchester United. I really want them to achieve. And in this case, it was not a bad debut in any chance. But let's not focus too much on Manchester United on that occasion. So they scored 4 goals, which means that it was not really a close contest. Yeovil tried their best, but their high press was very demanding physically of their players, and I think their stamina let them down by the end, where they could barely run at the same tempo as their opponents, which are much more fit and much more prepared for such a high press game and high demanding speed of play. Leicester City, on the other hand, visited Peterborough and they did not have any troubles. They defeated them quite comfortably 5-1. So it was a very routine game for them. At the end, it was nice for the home side that they managed to score. I'm sure that the home supporters were happy about that, although they could have probably hoped for more out of this game. But in the end, they have to remember that Leicester were champions 2 seasons ago, and that's not something that we need to underestimate in any chance. On top of that, Claude Puel, the Leicester manager, is a top manager. He knows how to get things done and how to get 3 points out of games like this. Moving down the fixtures list, we also saw Brighton visiting Middlesbrough, and that was a game that was with more contest, I would say, not like the other two games so far, where Premier League teams dominated totally their lower league opponents. Brighton really had to work out that victory, and they managed to get it in the end. I was not able to watch that game, and I am yet to see highlights, so I don't really want to go into the details about it. But I hope that Middlesbrough are going to bounce back because I really like that team, and I hope that we see them in the Premier League soon, or at least at the later stages of the cup. So it's not going to happen for them this year. Hopefully next year it's going to be a more successful one for them. Next game where we had Premier League team competing was Notts County hosting Swansea. And this is another game where Swansea did not manage to perform as the expectations would have demanded. The draw means that there is going to be now a replay, and it's going to be at Swansea, which gives them a significant advantage. Hopefully, Notts County would be up to that challenge, and we get to see a nice game in the end because it's always nice to see when the lower league team surprises the bigger opponent and gets at least to a replay. So for me, that's a win in my book, and I do hope that Notts County managed to do something in the replay as well. Don't forget that today actually Swansea are hosting Arsenal, and that may be the reason why they have rested some of their key players with that game in mind, because they wouldn't want to get all their first starters injured or fatigued for that game, because Arsenal is one of the top teams in the league, and they will definitely give them something to think about. One of the most interesting games for this round was Southampton's game with Watford. This was a game where two Premier League teams clashed, and we see that the Saints were victorious, 1-0. So this is one of the good things for Manuel Pellegrino's side in the past few weeks. As you probably know, Southampton are not having the best of seasons. They saw one of their best players being snatched away from them. Virgil van Dijk joined Liverpool after all of the transfer talk and all of the scandals that preceded this movement in the summer. They finally got his man in January, and it was an astonishing fee for a defender. I really do hope that Virgil van Dijk manages to prove his critics wrong, and he becomes a success at Liverpool, although they're an opponent for Manchester United and a historical opponent at that. I really hope that such a high transfer fee is not going to affect his performance, and he will show why Jurgen Klopp was so adamant to have him. But even without him, Southampton managed to defeat Watford, who are now with their new manager, Raul Gracia. If you have listened to the first episode of Futcast, I already mentioned that I'm not really familiar with Raul Gracia. I haven't followed his career, so I'm not sure what to expect. So far, he really hasn't put any expectations on my side. I'm yet to see something significant, and then because of that, I'm going to reserve my judgment. The next game that I want to focus on is the one that actually became infamous in the meanwhile. It was Wigan Athletics 2-0 victory over West Ham United, Moises West Ham United. And this game became very famous over the internet because of an unfortunate accident. Actually, more disgraceful accident than unfortunate. It was Artur Masuaku's spitting incident, where he was sent off after he was shown the red card by the referee. It's indeed something that I think you would all agree doesn't have place in the modern game, and we as fans should condemn such behavior by players. Those are professionals that get paid insane amount of money, and they should not really let their emotions boil to such a point that they would spit at an opponent. West Ham are representatives of the top division in England, and as such, they really have an obligation to keep a certain class and certain demeanor and really respect opponents. I'm not saying that lower league teams should not do that, but I would really not expect such behavior from a top division team. I'm really glad to hear that David Moyes has addressed the issue already, and he said in a conference after the game that he's going to address this with Artur Masuaku, and he's going to make sure that he's disciplined sufficiently to make sure that this is not repeated in the future. And I really hope that happens, because otherwise they're really putting the whole game to shame. The next game was a real surprise to me. Newport County managed to get a 1-1 draw with Tottenham Hotspur visiting their stadium. So this was a really big surprise, especially looking at the squad that Mauricio Pochettino decided to list for this game. It was almost complete with four starters, and some of the substitutes that came in later on the game were also very important players for the Spurs. So it was a really big success for Newport, who managed to get a replay which will be played at Wembley. And I'm sure that Newport's players are really rejoicing now this moment. They're going to get to play at Wembley, and they have the chance to progress. Probably it won't happen, to be honest. We all know that those replays, when played at home for the Premier League sides, are very, very difficult for the visiting teams, and I'm sure that Mauricio Pochettino is going to do what is necessary to eliminate his inferior opponent. But in the end, this is one of the beauties of the FA Cup, the fact that the minor team, the smaller team, can really make a miracle, surprise everybody, beat the odds, and eliminate their stronger opponents. Stronger here is, of course, a subjective term, which is stronger mostly on paper and based on what the bookies expect of the games. But in the end, Tottenham is one of the leading teams in the country, and they should easily go past opponents such as Newport County. One of the other games that was a complete surprise, and I think this was for most fans watching the FA Cup Round 4, was the game that was played at Anfield. Liverpool lost at home to West Bromwich Albion 2-3. This is completely scandalous, I would say. Alan Pardew's team came to Anfield as a complete outsider, but managed to win 3-2. This is not something that happens every day, and I'm sure that Jurgen Klopp would have been furious after that game, although I'm not sure if they were focusing on the FA Cup too much, to be honest. And even if they weren't, it's still something to lament now and to feel disappointed about, especially considering that they actually took the lead in the fifth minute after Roberto Firmino scored then, and afterwards Jay Rodriguez quickly scored a quick double in the 7th and in the 11th minute. So 6 minutes later, they were already on the losing side of that fixture. It was a really interesting game to watch. I'm sure that the Liverpool fans would not agree. It was heartbreaking probably for them, and it was nerve-wracking as usual. This is classic Liverpool in the last 2 years. But for the neutrals, it was a wonderful game. And Liverpool's games are usually such. They play a lot of attacking football, and they really like to express themselves with the ball, which is wonderful to watch. Probably not so much if you are rooting for them to win, and I'm sure that their fans would like to win for once without conceding. They have a problem with their keepers. They have a problem with their defenders. All in all, it seems that it's very difficult for them to keep a clean sheet these days. I would think that Jurgen Klopp might use Claudio Ranieri's tactics and promise them a pizza if they manage to keep a clean sheet. This worked for Leicester; they became champions. Why not? Maybe it could work for Liverpool as well. Not for champions per se, because Manchester City are far, far away in the league table. So I wouldn't even dream of Liverpool trying to catch up with the citizens. But they could at least try to perform better in the defensive part of the game. And later on, with Matip's own goal, things did not really get any better. Momu Salah managed to score another, to make the result a bit more respectable. But still, I'm sure that even our party was a little bit surprised out of that turn of events. Good for Jay Rodriguez to finally find his feet at West Brom and start scoring. He was a player that I really admired at Southampton. I was really surprised that they sold him, but apparently Pellegrino does not see a place for him in his squad, and now he has to find his luck in West Brom. So probably the Baggies would find the best place for him, and he is going to fulfill his potential because when he was younger, he was really considered one of the top talents in the country. It's a shame that he did not manage to fulfill that potential at St. Mary's, but now he has the chance to do that at the Hawthorns. In the other game, which actually placed two Premier League teams against each other, Chelsea defeated comfortably Newcastle, Rafa Benitez's Newcastle. So this was probably an emotional night for the Newcastle manager. As you know, Rafa Benitez is famous for not only leading Liverpool to that wonderful 2005 final against Milan in Istanbul, but he was also the manager of Chelsea, with whom he won the Europa League. So Rafa Benitez probably has a lot of positive emotions at Stamford Bridge. That night, however, Michy Batshuayi made sure that he would not get any of those again. Marcos Alonso in the end scored another goal to make it a classic victory 3-0, and it seems that Michy Batshuayi is really pushing for a place in the starting squad. This is going to be very interesting to follow. As you know, there are a lot of rumors for Chelsea buying a new striker, but we'll get to that a bit later. In the last game of the round, Cardiff City hosted Manchester City, and it was a game that only had one possible ending, I think. I'm sure that most of the bookies, as well as the fans that were watching, were sure that Pep Guardiola's side is going to be victorious in this fixture, and they were. To be honest, they were. They won 2-0 with some very very good football, very free flowing football from them. So kudos for that, and I think that everybody enjoys watching their games. They really have a way with their attacking play. What was very surprising is that they started without a clean striker. Leroy Sané played in the number 9 hole, but he was really roaming all over the place. He was trying to stretch the attack left and right, and Sterling helped a lot in that direction as well. He managed to get a goal, so Sterling is one of their top scorers this season. He's really feeling his boots, and after the scandalous transfer from Liverpool, he's really now becoming one of the most important players for Pep Guardiola's side, as well as for England. I'm sure that the English team, the English national team, is going to benefit from having such a successful winger who is also capable of playing as an inside forward. He scores a lot of goals, and at critical times, he's really able to turn games around. And and bring 3 points for his side, which is in the end exactly what you want from your attacking players, isn't it? So with all of that, I just want to mention that Aguero did take part in that game. He came on in the second period. I think Guardiola's thought there. Welcome back. I think we had some technical issues. I got a message that I was disconnected and reconnected again, so apologies for anyone that's following this Footcast live. What I just wanted to mention lastly was that Aguero did take part in that game. He played in the second half. He was a substitute for Leroy Sané, and he performed not bad. I'm sure that what Guardiola had in mind was to actually give him some time to recover and make sure that he's ready for the Premier League fixtures that are coming midweek. Because as you probably know, Gabriel Jesus, their other striker, is injured. He has MCL injury, which is a very serious injury, and it's not yet certain when he's coming back. They are going to try and wait for his recovery without a surgery, which is a very brave approach, I would say. Usually, MCL and ACL injuries are treated with surgery, and then usually the team's head coaches and the medical staff are hoping for the best. In this case, they still don't have an expected return date for Gabriel Jesus, so they really need to keep Aguero fit. Otherwise, City might find themselves in a bit of trouble. With that, I want to switch to the next topic for today's podcast, which is something that I already started talking about. It's about Alexis Sanchez's debut for Manchester United. Alexis Sanchez took the legendary number 7 shirt in his new team, and he's now going to be under tremendous focus, under a lot of pressure to perform. Since this is first of all, his transfer was a very expensive one, very well covered by the media, and there is a lot of expectation for him to really fill the boots and fill the number 7 shirt, which was worn by such legends in the past, such as Beckham and Cristiano Ronaldo afterwards wore it. So now there is really a lot of expectations for the Chilean. In the game against Yeovil, he was definitely up to it. He tried to make things happen. He tried to connect with his teammates. He attempted several key passes, some through balls, splitting defenses, but unfortunately he misjudged, he mistimed them, and a lot of them went out of play without really having been connected with his teammates. Having said that, it's good to see a player really trying to earn his place and earn his wages for the team, because maybe if you are following Manchester United in the recent years, sometimes some of the players that are wearing the shirt do leave the feeling that they're not really giving their best. And I'm sure that Alexis now is aware of the huge fan base that is watching him, and that he really needs to perform week in, week out, sweating for his life on the field, basically, and trying to do his best to bring 3 points home. In this occasion, he did not manage to score, but he gave two wonderful assists. And he connected very well with Juan Mata, in my opinion. He also exchanged a lot of passes with McTominay, but this is probably more a positional thing than kind of a connection between players. Something that I also noticed was that whenever Manchester United scored and players gathered to celebrate, the Spanish-speaking trio of Herrera, Mata, and Sanchez celebrated together. It's something that was very interesting for me. It's kind of usual. Football teams usually have those groups that are based either on nationality or on speaking language. So in this situation, I think they're forming a Spanish-speaking nucleus at Manchester United. It would be interesting to see if this nucleus is going to remain intact in the summer, because there are a lot of rumors about Juan Mata and Ander Herrera being available for sale. This for me would be very unlikely, considering that Marwan Fellaini has not yet renewed his contract. He may leave on a free. There is a lot of interest for the tall Belgian midfielder, and Jose Mourinho is desperate to keep him, but I imagine that Fellaini has better options. He really wants playing time, and he wants to make sure that his place in the Belgium national team is cemented. That's not something that Jose Mourinho can promise him at Old Trafford. Of course, he has very stern competition. He has Pogba, he has Herrera, and he has Matic. So I really don't think that Fellaini can expect to be a starter at Manchester United. I think he knows that, and that's why he wants to leave. I don't think it's about money. I think that he's getting more than enough. He's getting paid very handsomely at Manchester United. So I don't think he wants to transfer away to get more money. He may get that if he goes to Turkey or to China, but I really doubt that this is his main reason. I think it's all about playing time and starting for his team week in, week out. There was a brief period last season when he was a first team starter, but with the new transfers, with Matic coming into the team, it's really not happening for him. So he probably will leave in the summer. Michael Carrick, on the other hand, is retiring. He's going to become a coach in the United Academy. I'm not sure if he's going to coach the youth teams or the reserve teams or maybe the first team. I really haven't looked into that. If somebody knows, please drop me a comment to inform me. It would be interesting to know. But all in all, this means that two of the midfielders in the team are leaving next summer. So all those rumors about Herrera being sold, for me only mean that if they are to become true, it means that there are going to be at least two incoming transfers of midfielders. And to be honest, I don't think Mourinho will do that. I think he doesn't really want to rock the boat that much. I think he would prefer to keep at least Herrera if he cannot keep Fellaini. Not that they're the same kind of player. I think they're very different in the way that they play and the way that they influence games. But I really don't think that Herrera will be sold. On the other hand, we have Juan Mata, and one could argue that if Mkhitaryan was not sold to Arsenal, then Mata would have probably been sold. Now that Mkhitaryan is no longer at United, I still am more inclined to think that Mata is going to remain as well, because he's one of the few creative sparks in the team. He's one of those players that can really see and make things happen with the blink of an eye. He appears slow. He appears kind of not really influencing games until he really switches to a higher gear and then makes that pass that splits the defense, makes one of his teammates absolutely in a clear position, finds him in a clear position, and he creates goal opportunities. There are not a lot of players out there that can do that better than Mata. Until at least there is a solid rumor about a player to replace him, I am reserving my opinion to believe that both Herrera and Mata will be players of Manchester United after summer 2018. So this is regarding the Spanish-speaking nucleus that is forming in the team. Now I just want to also quickly cover the wages structure in United. And there have been a lot of talk about Pogba probably being a bit disgruntled, a bit unhappy about Alexis joining on such astronomical fees. As you have probably heard, he is joining the team on something around 550,000 pounds a week, which is an astronomical sum for a football player. If you think about it, this is more than 2 million pounds a month, which means more than 25 million pounds a year. And on top of that, there were also rumors that he was signed with a signing bonus as well as a big fee for his agent and Mkhitaryan going the other way. So this was a huge transfer. It's going to really create ripples in the whole wage structure at the team, probably at other teams as well. According to some sources, that was the exact reason why Guardiola did not want Sanchez at City, because it's going to disrupt the harmony in the team and it's going to force other star players to demand more money, like Kevin De Bruyne, who just signed a new contract. I imagine that if Sanchez signed for City for wages like that, De Bruyne would demand the same or maybe more, since he's their most influential player. I think Alexis now has to prove his worth to the team. He's 29, which means that he still has a value even if they decide to sell him soon, which would only be possible, I think, next January, because of the rules that a player cannot play for three teams in the same calendar year, which means that he already played for Arsenal this year. Now he has played already for Manchester United, and he would not be able to play for anyone else. Just to explain about a common question these days, whether Sanchez would be eligible to play in the Champions League, and the same question for Mkhitaryan to be eligible to play in the Europa League for Arsenal. Yes, they will be. The UEFA rules and stipulations are very clear that a player cannot play in the same competition for two different teams. Notice the fact that they mention specifically the same competition. The Europa League and the Champions League are obviously different competitions, which means that Alexis Sanchez would have no problem to be registered in place of Henrik Mkhitaryan and to take place in the Manchester United squad for the upcoming Champions League games. The same stands true for Mkhitaryan at Arsenal as well. So both of them would be able to showcase their skills, to showcase their talent at the European stages and help their teams progress further in Europe. Moving on to the next topic, it's Premier League round 25 that's actually starting tonight. It's starting in in half an hour, actually even less, in 5 minutes are the first two games. Swansea is hosting Arsenal and West Ham is hosting Crystal Palace. Then we have more games tomorrow. So I just wanted to cover all of these and say a few words for each of those games. What am I expecting? How I think those are going to play out. So Swansea, I haven't really watched their game for the FA Cup. I expect that they have probably saved the strength of some of their starters for the Arsenal game, and I expect them to be very physical against the Gunners. Mkhitaryan is probably going to start for Arsenal, and I expect him to do his best to impress his new team and his new fans. I hope that he's going to suit their style of play. He's a very technical, very, I would say, a prestigious player that can make beautiful passes, really beautiful turns and beautiful play, but he's not a fighter. And I think that was the biggest problem that Mourinho had with him. He doesn't have the physicality to really dominate and establish himself in games. He doesn't have the how would I call that? He doesn't have the aggression that a player like Alexis Sanchez has to really hustle opponents if things are not going his way. In Arsenal, however, he's going to be surrounded with very technical players. They're technically superior to Manchester United, I would say, in almost every sense, and this is going to suit his style a lot. If rumors are correct that Aubameyang is also going to join them, form a wonderful attacking understanding as they did in Dortmund, and I expect Arsenal to really start banging goals for fun. In this game, I would say that Arsenal would be victorious. I expect Swansea to score, but Arsenal would outscore them. They really can do that. They have a lot of firepower in that team, and I expect them to not have a lot of trouble at Liberty Stadium. On the other hand, we have West Ham United hosting Crystal Palace at the Olympic Stadium in London, and West Ham, after this disgraceful loss against Notts County, was it? I believe. So let me just go back. No, it was not Notts County. Apologies, it was Wigan Athletic, of course. A lot of games were played that weekend. Couldn't really remember them all by heart. But anyway, West Ham, I expect them to bounce back. Crystal Palace are an informed team. They currently have their attacking play working for them. But West Ham would be really fired up after this loss, and I expect David Moyes to ensure that they go away after that game with all 3 points in the bag. Palace would rely on Townsend and Milivojevic to supply Benteke with sufficient balls to put one in the net. So it would be up to the central defenders of West Ham to make sure that Benteke does not find himself in a lot of goal positions and he does not get a lot of opportunities. James Collins is an informed defender, so I think it would be a very interesting battle between him and Benteke. Whoever comes out victorious is probably going to affect the end result a lot. If West Ham do not manage to keep Benteke at bay, they may suffer. But on the other hand, I think that they have enough to score and beat Crystal Palace. Huddersfield Liverpool is the derby of the German managers. David Wagner against Jurgen Klopp. So this is master and apprentice kind of a game. Both of the teams really like to play attractive attacking football. Liverpool are almost like a gung-ho team that only can play attack. Very poor at defending, at least at the moment. Even with Virgil van Dijk, I expect him to make a more positive impression in this game and actually help them win. So I'm really thinking that Liverpool will be victorious in this game. They would come away with the win. And Huddersfield, unfortunately for them, at the moment just do not possess the class and the necessary players to win such a game. The only thing that could turn things around for Liverpool and make them suffer is if they do not believe in themselves and stop trying. This is what usually happens when they lead 1 or 2 or 3 goals, and then somehow they just pull their foot off the pedal, allowing the opposition to attack, allowing them to really get into their half and pump balls into their penalty area, which is then leading to the now becoming regular mistakes from their goalkeepers. Both Mignolet and Karius are really not showing safe hands. They're really giving a lot of headaches to Klopp, trying to decide who to be the starter. Liverpool are one of the few teams that do not have a decided starting goalkeeper. And this is always a problem. I cannot remember a successful side in history that had rotating goalkeepers. Manchester United had a brief period when De Gea was rotating with Lindegaard, but that was only because De Gea was yet to adapt to the Premier League. Afterward, he became undoubted the undoubted and undisputed number one. I'm really not seeing that from Loris Karius, and Mignolet is probably on his way out as well. There are a lot of rumors that Liverpool are going to try to bring a more experienced and a more talented goalkeeper at Anfield in the summer. In any case, I don't expect them to fail in this game, and I expect Liverpool to get all 3 points from their visit to Huddersfield Town. In the next game, Chelsea are hosting Bournemouth. I have a lot of respect for Eddie Howe, but I really don't see Bournemouth taking anything from this game. Chelsea have just won 3-0 against Newcastle with their reserve striker scoring 2 goals. There are a lot of rumors that they're on the verge of buying Olivier Giroud from Arsenal. This is probably going to materialize if Arsenal buy Aubameyang. I guess there is a domino effect to that transfer. In all situations, Alvaro Morata is going to be really fired up to prove his worth for the team and ensure that he is still the main striker for Chelsea. Antonio Conte would expect nothing less from him, and I'm sure that if they get to buy a new striker, Morata will be benched if he doesn't perform. I think that in this game they're going to score for fun, and I expect Bournemouth to leak quite a lot of goals. I expect a real thrashing there at the bridge. Maybe Bournemouth fans would disagree, but this is how I currently read the forms of the two teams. Everton hosting Leicester. This is going to be a very, very interesting game. I think this is going to be one of the most difficult games to predict, at least for me. I don't usually support Everton winning a lot of games. I find them a very tricky team to predict. Leicester, on the other hand, are currently in a purple patch, and Claude Puel is doing wonders with them. So I expect Leicester to bring the game to Everton. The Foxes would be really cunning in this game. They would wait for the Evertonians to attack and then punish them on the counter. Everton lost one of their players in this transfer window, but we'll comment that in a few minutes. Now going to Newcastle United against Burnley. Rafa Benitez would definitely want to bounce back from the loss against Chelsea, and it's a very good. They have the best opportunity to do so against Burnley now. Newcastle are really struggling to score goals at the moment. They really lack a prolific goal scorer. Neither Dwight Gale nor Mitrovic or Ayoze Perez are really reliable in that sense. And Newcastle did not manage to buy a proven striker in the transfer window. It's a very badly kept secret that Rafa Benitez is having a lot of disagreements with the board about his transfer budget and his inability to attract better players to come and play at St. James's Park. So it would be interesting to see how this game develops. Burnley at the moment with Sean Dyche are really punishing teams that underestimate them. Burnley are one of the giant killers, as I call them this season. Not that Newcastle are a giant, but I think that Rafa is going to take a very conservative approach. He's going to try to close the game and wait for Burnley to make a mistake, force them into errors, and punish them for that. However, they have to be really prolific with the few opportunities that they get. On the other hand, Burnley can afford the draw, so I don't expect the most exciting games to be played. A 0-0 draw would be something that would be perfectly natural for me. Southampton hosting Brighton. Southampton are currently at the top of at the top of the confidence levels after their win in the FA Cup, and they're probably going to transfer that into the upcoming game. Brighton also won. They won away from home, so they also would be feeling confident that they can take something from this game. But I think the sheer class and the better players available for Manuel Pellegrino at St. Mary's are going to prove to be decisive, and Southampton will be victorious. Manchester City hosting West Bromwich Albion. This is going to be an interesting game. West Bromwich Albion with Alan Pardew at their helm are now an attacking team. This is something completely opposite to their previous manager's philosophy, Tony Pulis. Now that Pardew is in charge at the Hawthorns, you can expect them to approach every game with an attacking sense. However, I think if they do that at the Etihad, it would be suicidal. So I expect a comfortable win for Pep Guardiola's side. I do expect actually West Brom to score a goal, but really I don't think that they would get anything out of that game. Aguero is probably going to start, and I think he's very hungry to score more goals and cement his place for whenever Gabriel Jesus is coming back. There are a lot of rumors that Aguero could be sold in the summer, and in order for that to happen, City first need to identify replacements. I think they're going to go for another striker in the summer anyway, but if they're going to sell Aguero, they'll probably need to buy two. Some media are now reporting that Guardiola has been complaining about the lack of support from the board in his pursuit of his transfer targets, which to me is ridiculous and hilarious considering how much money he spent in the previous summer and now with his latest addition, which I'm going to discuss in a few minutes. Stoke City hosting Watford. This is a game that is going to prove decisive for both managers. Raul Gracia is now in charge of Watford, and Stoke also have their new manager leading the lines. So it's going to be a very important game. A lot of nerves and a lot of pressure for both sides. I think it's not going to be the prettiest game to watch, as there is a lot at stake there. Both teams are trying not to slump into a bad patch and then try to figure out how to get away from that position. And the game that is closing the round, round 25 that is, it's the derby of the game of the round. Apologies. This is Tottenham Hotspur hosting Manchester United at the Wembley. Mauricio Pochettino is going to try and dismantle the Red Devils. Tottenham Hotspur style is with really high press, a lot of speed. He's both of his fullbacks bombing on each side. Harry Kane leading the line, really physical team with a lot of technical competence, a lot of flair as well. I really expect Tottenham to be dominant. Manchester United trying to close the game, being defensive, trying to really kill the tempo and hit them on the counter. We'll see what happens. I'm really feeling undecisive about this one. I'm more inclined to think that Tottenham are going to win, to be honest, especially after they drew in the FA Cup. They're going to be fired up now to bounce back. And what bigger opportunity and what bigger scene than trying to defeat Manchester United at Wembley? It's going to be a very interesting game, and try not to miss it. Last topic for the night, transfer talk. I'm quickly going to go through all of the famous deals that happened recently. So first off is Aymeric Laporte's transfer to Manchester City for £65 million. Manchester City broke their transfer record for a defender. This is very, very surprising turn of events. There were talks some weeks ago that Pep Guardiola and Chiki Begiristain are not willing to pursue Laporte anymore after he refused to join Manchester City in the summer. Apparently, that's not true. So now Laporte is going to strengthen their defense, probably going to play next to John Stones, and I expect actually Guardiola to try and ease him into the squad. I don't expect Stones and Laporte to play together from the get-go. He's probably going to rotate them with Kompany when he's back, and also with Otamendi. All we know, a very impressive transfer, a very impressive coup from Manchester City, and they're really now, not now, but they have established a wonderful squad full of very capable, technically gifted players who can play beautiful football, kicking the ball on the grass, not trying to rely on long balls. They are really a force to reckon with, and I expect them to push forward in Europe as well. Barcelona talent Gerard Deulofeu has joined Watford on loan. So this will be Deulofeu's second stint in England after his stay at Everton, where he left mixed impressions with his talent. Now he's going to try and impress for Raul Gracia's team. I'm not the biggest fan of Deulofeu, but I do think that he has his qualities, and I hope that he will be able to show them off and showcase them at Watford at the Vicarage Road. Leonardo Ulloa, the tall striker from Leicester, has joined Brighton on loan. Apparently, Brighton are trying to address the lack of goals, and Ulloa is somebody who knows how to put the ball into the net, into the back of the net. He did that before Claudio Ranieri was hired at Leicester. He has not really played a lot of footballs ever since then. Claudio Ranieri came and went. Then there was Shakespeare and now Claude Puel, but Ulloa did not manage to really establish himself as a first team player. He's probably now going to relish the chance to do so at Brighton. So let's see how this one develops. Daniel Sturridge joined West Brom Albion, so this is a real coup for Pardew. If Daniel Sturridge remains fit and if he manages to recover his speed, his pace, I think he's going to be a very good transfer, a loan transfer that is for West Brom. I'm not sure if they have a clause to buy him in the summer. Probably they do, and it's all going to depend on him. I'm sure that Daniel Sturridge decided to go for that transfer to try and improve his chances of making the England national team, because otherwise he's really not getting a lot of game time at Liverpool, and this is not going to change anytime soon, unless there were some injuries for the Reds. Now that's out of the question, and he needs to focus on his new team at the Hawthorns. Hopefully, a party will find a way to keep all of his strikers happy. Now they have Rondon, they have Jay Rodriguez, they have their new boy Daniel Sturridge, and they have Berreino. So it's going to be an interesting. Oh, sorry, Berreino is now at Stoke, so doesn't matter. João Mario joined West Ham from Inter on loan. This is a very interesting transfer. João Mario is an attacking midfielder. He can also play as a striker, if I'm not mistaken. It would be interesting to see where he will fit in David Moyes' tactics. I haven't seen a lot of him, only when he's playing for Portuguese national team, so it will be interesting to see how he showcases his talent at the Olympic Stadium. Guido Carrillo joined Southampton, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, from Sevilla, 22 million pounds. This is an expensive transfer for Pellegrino's team, and Carrillo is going to be he's going to be welcomed with a lot of high expectations. We'll see how that one develops. I think he may be debuting actually tomorrow. Aaron Lennon joining Burnley from Everton for an undisclosed fee. Aaron Lennon, the pacey winger that used to maraud down the right wing of Tottenham Hotspur, then Everton. Now he's going to do that for Sean Dyche's team. I'm really not sure what to think of this one. Aaron Lennon, he went through a lot of problems in the last year, as you probably know. So I really do hope that he's going to recover his form and he's going to shine for Burnley, but we'll see what happens there. And the last one that actually came through is the Newcastle signing on loan of the Chelsea Brazilian starlet Kennedy. Kennedy is capable to play at left wing as well as the attacking midfield position in the center. I think he's also more than capable of doing that on the right side. I've read a lot of praise for him, that he's a huge talent with a lot of potential. He really didn't realize that at Stamford Bridge, and I think that Conte is hoping that he's going to kickstart his career at Newcastle, and then when he comes back next year, he's going to be ready for the challenge at Chelsea. And we can only hope that Rafa Benitez knows what he's doing, and he's going to extract the most out of young Kennedy. Moving to the three top rumors that were circulating the media in the past few days. Aubameyang to Arsenal. This is a very old rumor. It's considered that this transfer is going to be completed very soon, and it only makes sense. I think there is a linked transfer with that Olivier Giroud going to Chelsea, as I already mentioned earlier. So if that happens, Aubameyang is going to link up again with Henrik Mkhitaryan and they will try to form the deadly duo that actually tore the Bundesliga apart a few years ago. Lucas Moura is rumored to be close to signing for Tottenham. The PSG Brazilian winger is on Mauricio Pochettino's list, and apparently they're very close to signing him. I'm really not sure how Lucas Moura wages are going to fit in with Tottenham's wage structure, but if this happens, I guess we'll find out. He's a very talented player. Several years ago, he was heavily linked with Manchester United. That did not materialize. He chose to join Paris Saint-Germain instead. Now let's see if he comes to England to showcase his skills at Wembley. And finally, probably the biggest and most important rumor is Thomas Lemar to Liverpool. Today and yesterday, a lot of media outlets reported that Thomas Lemar has already agreed his terms with Liverpool, and Monaco have also agreed and approved the deal. I'm not sure if this is true or not, but if it happens, apparently Liverpool have addressed Felipe Coutinho's sale to Barcelona, and this is his direct replacement. I am very enthusiastic about this, and I hope it happens. I think Lemar is a fantastic player, and he's going to be a wonderful addition to the Premier League. So, guys, if you have watched this and if you are watching, please let me know what do you think about the transfers that have happened and are yet to happen. Also, if you agree with my comments about the games that were played and will be played today and tomorrow, I would be more than happy to discuss that with you. Once again, thank you for watching, and with that, I want to end today's episode 2 of the Futcast. Until the next time, with you was What If League, and good night. Bye.